Afternoon adventurers, and welcome back to Spells Illustrated. In this episode, I'm going to talk about Enervation, an interesting 5th level spell for sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards that sort of is a mix of Witch Bolt and Vampiric Touch. The spell is a 5th level spell, like I mentioned, that deals 4d8 necrotic damage on a failed saving throw, and 2d8 on a successful one. It's kind of an odd spell in that you deal fewer dice of damage on a successful saving throw, rather than having the damage you roll, but since it's a single target spell, that works out. The spell then creates a line of dark necrotic energy between the caster and the target, which continually deals damage, assuming the caster continues to use actions on their turn, and also heals the caster for half the damage dealt. That already is pretty sweet. With only one saving throw, you can deal potentially a large amount of damage over several rounds to a creature, and also restore your own HP. The spell is also 5th level, sitting pretty on the Warlock spell list, being able to cast twice or more times, depending on your level, per short rest, and is also on the Sorcerer list, which is very fun, because it plays very well with some Metamagics. And let's take a closer look at that. So if you look over here, we've got our party, facing off against some random minis that I had nearby, a T-Rex and a couple of devils, and we're going to go ahead and cast our Enervation spell. Like I mentioned, both our Sorcerer and our Warlock can have the spell. For this, I'm going to say that our Sorcerer, Croesus, is casting it. That's a little blurry, but there you go. And it has a range of 60 feet, so from where he is standing in the room, he can hit any of these creatures easily. If any of those creatures gets out of a 60-foot radius of our caster, the spell will end, just like Witch Bolt does, and if they go behind total cover, it will end just like Witch Bolt does. From the space he was already standing in, that I did not count before I started this video, he can actually hit any creature up to the edge of the room. So Croesus is going to go ahead and cast our Enervation spell. Now he is a sorcerer, so he can do plenty of fun things, so he's going to cast as a twinned spell at 2 creatures, dealing 4d8 damage to both of them, and healing for half the numbers rolled. And turn after turn, he's going to be able to use his action to reignite those lines and deal more damage and heal for more HP. Now let's take that a different direction. Let's back it up a second. Croesus is going to cast the spell, but this time he's going to do it as a quickened spell, casting as a bonus action. This is important. Let's say he targets the T-Rex, it doesn't super matter for the example. Deals damage, heals, and then, since he has his action free from casting as a bonus action, he's going to activate this Enervation beam again on the same turn, dealing 4d8 more damage and healing for more HP. Technically speaking, Enervation can also be cast with Distant Spell, doubling its range to 120 feet, but keep in mind the text of the spell says, if the creature is ever outside of 60 feet from the caster, the spell ends. So, if you have a nice DM that's willing to play ball on that one and make it 120 feet for the duration of the spell, great. Not everyone's going to rule that way. Talk to your DM before trying these tricks. Of course, Croesus can empower the spell as well as it is a spell that deals damage. He can also cast as an extended spell if he thinks that the 1 minute duration isn't going to be long enough, although most fights do not last a full minute. He could also cast as a heightened spell, giving disadvantage to the target of the Enervation beam. Granted, that is a pretty hefty cost at 3 sorcery points, but the spell only offers 1 saving throw. I play a lot of Sorcerer because Metamagic is just so much fun, and there are so many spells that work well with it to augment their power by spending a sorcery point or 2, and Enervation is definitely one of them. But I also like it on Warlock because you can cast it so many times once you're level 9, especially once you reach 11 and get a 3rd spell slot. And it's a pretty good way to regain HP from range. Now let's run this example forward a little bit. Let's say Croesus casts Enervation on the T-Rex, does this quicken thing, does some extra damage, that's all well and good. The spell is running, the spell has continued. Now let's say, for the sake of example, that these marshals are maybe not so much in the way, and he's going to run over and bite the guy that's visibly hurting him, because why wouldn't he? And Croesus gets bitten and grappled, restrained, and stuck in the T-Rex's mouth. Now that T-Rex isn't going to get more than 60 feet away from the sorcerer, I hope. That's obvious. and they're not going to get full cover between them either. So that spell's going to stay up as long as Crosis's concentration holds out, which in a T-Rex's mouth is going to be difficult, but sorcerers do have Constitution saving throw proficiency, so there's a chance at least. And as long as Crosis is in there enervating this T-Rex, no attack rolls or saving throws necessary, only damage rolls, he's going to keep getting health back, so it's kind of going to mitigate the biting damage. Now, T-Rexes deal a lot of damage, a lot more than 48, well, half of 48, so it's still going to be a bad situation for Crosis, don't get me wrong. But if you're going to be in a T-Rex's mouth, you might as well be healing off of it. Now, the spell does have one more pretty hefty restriction, and that's that it will end if you use your action to cast anything else or do anything else with your action, not just casting. So it's limiting in that way. If you want to take your action to disengage or dash or dodge or attack with a weapon, maybe you're multiclassed or something, or anything like that, it is going to end. What you can do is cast things like Misty Step. Now, how that interacts with an ongoing beam is maybe a little ambiguous, but there's nothing saying that it won't stay around, as long as you don't get too far away or go behind full cover, which for Misty Step you have to be able to see the target location anyway. One last thing before I wrap this episode up. If you cast Enervation on something like a troll or a hydra or in some ways a vampire or vampire spawn, though they're resistant to necrotic damage, you could theoretically get infinite healing. I mean, only for a minute or two with Metamagic, but considering those creatures have regeneration, they're not going to die on you. Technically, infinite health points? Just food for thought, I suppose. Anyway, that's about all I wanted to say. Enervation is a nifty little spell for dealing single target damage and healing yourself. There's not really another spell that does that aside from Vampiric Touch, and I just think it's neat. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you found the video informative or you just liked it, hit the like button. It does help the video out quite a bit. And if you want to see more, subscribe so you don't miss them. And I will see you in the next one. Happy adventuring.